A long-awaited ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has finally begun in Gaza after 15 months of war. The deal was in jeopardy this morning after Hamas failed to provide the names of the hostages it planned to free on time, delaying the truce by almost 3 hours. But the first of those hostages are now being released, among them 28-year-old Emily Damari, who was the last remaining British hostage in Gaza. With the latest, here's Fred Dimbleby.
As the clock struck 8:30 local time, the celebrations began in Gaza. An outpouring of relief that after 15 months of war, there was hope for peace. But it was all premature. The time of the longed-for ceasefire came and went, but the fighting did not stop. Israel blamed Hamas for the delay, but then, at last, the names of those due to be freed was released, and the ceasefire began. They are 31-year-old veterinary nurse Daron Steinbecker, 24-year-old Romy Ganen, captured as she tried to flee the Supernova Festival, and 28-year-old British-Israeli Emily Damari, taken from her kibbutz in the October 7th attack.
It's just the most excruciating, torturous situation you can possibly imagine. They don't know whether their daughter is alive. They don't know what condition she's in if she is alive. They didn't know until today that she was going to be on the first three to be the list of the first three to be released.
Already in Gaza, the effect of the pause is being felt as thousands of Palestinians forced to flee begin to return to areas made uninhabitable by war.
I found my home this way, as you see behind me.
Mossam,
Yes.
one of those surveying the remains of what once was his home.
My home was bombed and destroyed, and I have now no place to stay in, and along with my children will be homeless for a long time. I don't know when I will be able to rebuild my house and start living like humans.
In Israel, the ceasefire has caused political division. The far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, announcing his resignation in protest, along with two other ministers, weakening Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition.
Hamas turned from a terror army to a guerrilla group, but we acknowledge the fact we hadn't achieved yet our objectives in regard to this issue, but we are committed to do so.
But the delay to the ceasefire still proved deadly. Israeli strikes killing at least 10 people after the original deadline had passed. The hope is this will be a turning point, but this fragile ceasefire is still a distance away from sustained peace. Fred Dimbleby, ITV News.
Well, Rachel Younger is in Israel for us, near the Gaza border. And Rachel, just bring us up to date with the latest on these hostages.
Good afternoon, Gamal. Well, the really good news that I can give you is that we are hearing from the other side of the border, which is just 5 miles behind me here within Gaza. We've been watching pictures of the Red Cross convoy, 5 or 6 white vehicles flying their flags, driving through absolutely devastated streets to try and reach the 3 hostages, are now feeding back information to the Israeli authorities that all of them, Doron, Romy and Emily, are in good condition. So we understand from that transfer is beginning to take place from those holding the 3 women to the Red Cross, who will act as interims, who will bring them out over the Netzarim crossing back into Israel. Now, that news will be such blessed relief to their families, because they have had no idea of what kind of condition these women are in. You'll remember that during this ceasefire negotiations, one of the reasons it stumbled again and again is because when the number of 33 hostages to be released was given, Hamas refused to make clear whether those people would be alive or dead. So their families have been gathering on the other side of the border in Raim, in order to meet them, and we expect that to happen within the next hour or so. Their emotions will be suspended right now between building optimism after so long waiting and still fear that they have to come out through those streets of Gaza. Now, once they get onto the other side of the border, there is a very thought through process in place that will happen. There are medics from the Israeli army standing by who will assess their condition, both psychologically and physically, and they will then take a decision as to whether the three should be transported by road or by helicopter to one of the hospitals, 6 of them in total, that are lined up to accept them. And they will choose exactly which hospital to take them to based on the kind of treatment it's assessed they will need. They will go there with their families. Each one of those women has had a backpack prepared for them with some of their favourite items inside it. It is unimaginable, isn't it, to think about what will be going through their minds as they get closer and closer to coming home after 15 long months in captivity.
Yeah, as you say, Rachel, blessed relief for the families, indeed. How would you describe the mood on the ground near the Gaza border where you are?
Yeah, we just went into Sderot, which is the town right on the edge of that border. And people are going about their business as usual as far as they can. It's a Sunday, but that means that children are at school, people are going to work, but pretty much everyone is glued to either their phone or the radio listening for updates. I cannot tell you how much this matters to the people of this country. These women's faces are everywhere, on posters, on every street corner, in the press. They have become their stories so familiar to everybody. And we didn't know at the beginning of today exactly who would be released. That was the reason that the ceasefire was delayed. It was due to start at 8:30 here in Israel this morning, but in fact, Gaza at that point was still coming under attack. The Israeli authorities said that was because of the fact that Hamas had still not released the names. So it was an absolutely agonizing process, one that cost 14 people in Gaza their lives this morning, according to the Hamas-run medical authorities there as the fighting continued. But as of 11:15 today, the ceasefire has taken place. I wouldn't say that this country has breathed a sigh of relief because there is still so much in the balance, so many more hostages still being held. But certainly every other time I have been in this area close to the border, you can barely hear yourself speak for the sound of helicopters, Israeli helicopters moving between their bases and Gaza, often drones and fighter jets going ahead, the dreadful sounds of mortars going off in Gaza just over the border. Today, for the first time in as long as people can remember, there is, for now at least, quiet.
Rachel, near the Gaza border, thank you. Well, joining me now is Saleh Saeed, Chief Executive of the Disasters Emergency Committee. Saleh, many thanks indeed for joining us today. Well, firstly, your reaction to this long-awaited ceasefire between Israel and Hamas finally taking effect.
A huge relief, obviously, for the people in Gaza. This is the day that they have been waiting for over a year and a half now. And of course, for the people in Israel, for those families who are looking forward to meet and be reunited with the hostages being held. So a good day all round, and a huge relief also for the humanitarian organizations and aid workers working in Gaza around the clock, where they can hopefully very soon be able to surge and increase the aid into Gaza, which is desperately needed.
So give us a sense of the monumental task ahead facing your teams on the ground and facing the people in Gaza.
So it's over a year and a half now since this conflict has started. Gaza has been devastated. The aid situation is beyond belief. The humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding, both in terms of human life, of course, with over 46,000 people who have lost their lives, 2.1 million people, almost the entire population of Gaza, have been made homeless or been displaced. Now, hopefully, with this ceasefire, it means that we're able to increase the aid, and hopefully that will provide for the future of Gaza, for people to live in peace, and of course for the people of Israel. We're already working with our colleagues on the ground and local trusted partners to explore how we can increase that aid. That means the most basic of aid: food, water, shelter, and medicine. We're already hearing of people wanting to go back to their homes, if indeed their home's still standing, even to put up tents nearby their homes. So the aid effort has to increase, has to surge to be able to deal with that huge movement of people as well.
And with all of that in mind, with all the devastation, the destruction that we've seen over the last 15 months, is it even possible to start thinking about the next step, the process of rebuilding and reconstruction?
It's early days. The immediate priority is, of course, to boost the current levels of aid to meet the most basic needs I've mentioned: food, water, shelter, and medical care. That has to be the priority. Only around 50 trucks a day were getting into Gaza before the ceasefire. The aim of the ceasefire will aim to increase that to 600. So that's our immediate priority at the moment. Of course, within days and within weeks, people will be turning their attention to the medium and longer term, and construction will come at some point.
And given that you need to increase the amount of aid coming into Gaza, what does the international community need to do now in order to support the people of Gaza on the ground?
First and foremost, I think the pressure to maintain this ceasefire beyond phase one. We know phase one is for 6 weeks, which is aiming to increase the international humanitarian aid effort, the release, of course, of all the hostages, and the safety of people inside Gaza. So the effort has to be to maintain that beyond, hopefully, the first 42 days. And then, of course, if it holds, then there are serious conversations about the rebuilding of Gaza. But let's not go there yet, because this is a very fragile ceasefire. And we really have to see over the next few days to ensure that the safety of people inside Gaza and the safety of aid workers to be able to move around and deal with the huge influx of aid that hopefully will come is our most immediate priority. And of course, from a DEC perspective, what we're calling for the public is to donate to the DEC appeal so that we can buy all the essentials that are desperately needed in Gaza today.
Yeah, still a long way to go. OK, Saleh Saeed, Chief Executive of the Disasters Emergency Committee. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.